Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Profit Tool Belt podcast. Today's actually a big day because we're going to be talking about the end of Q4 review. If you remember, I made a promise back in the beginning of the year that for 2022, I was going to walk you through the strategic planning process step by step, and we're going to do it quarter by quarter, which is exactly how coaching works, proper business coaching works. And so I want to take you today through Q4. So we're going to start it by doing an overview of the whole system, getting us from Q1 to Q3. And then I'll do a deep dive onto what you should be expecting in Q4. So there's a lot of business reinvention talk that I'm planning to have in here. I'm going to be talking a little bit about examples from other people and what they've done. And I'm going to be urging and encouraging you on where to get more information if you need to do strategic planning in this business for yourself. So let's get to the episode. Well, hey, everybody. How are you? Welcome to the podcast episode. We're pretty much at the end of the quarter. We're actually at the end of the year. So this is Q4, and we're wrapping it up. We're wrapping up the promise that I made at the beginning of the year to take you through strategic planning on a quarter by quarter basis and walk you through the things that other business owners are already doing. The business owners that have a plan and work towards that plan have a lot more confidence. They are confident in, what challenges they're going to hit, how they're going to get past those challenges if they have them. They know what's going to happen in the people category, in the process category, when they know what to do when they're thinking about strategy. They certainly know what to do when it comes to cash and cash management, because, of course, in building your strategic plan, you're going to start to put a lot of the things in place that you need to grow the business in the future and make decisions, the kind of decisions that say, hey, we're going to do this and we're not going to do that. And sometimes that's just where you need to start. Sorry, I have a tickle in my throat, so you're going to hear me cough. And for those of you who are watching this as a video, you'll see that I'm wearing my down jacket because Q4 has hit with a bang. It is suddenly very cold here. And I don't know, I just didn't take it off today. But what we're going to do today is continue. This is part 4 of the quarter by quarter review of your business. And if you want to hear the other episodes, go back in the podcast and you'll be able to hear what we talked about in Q1, 2, and 3. And here we are in Q4. So for those of you who are just joining us for the first time in this, go ahead and listen. You're still going to get a ton of value. It's better to listen to them in order, but you certainly don't need to. Today, we're going to talk more specifically about the end of the strategic planning process, where that takes us, what kind of information, what kind of decisions you can make as a business owner to march forward with confidence. If you're running your business right now and you feel scattered or frazzled, well, I want to take you from scattered to smooth. I want to take you from frazzled to, orderly. There's nothing that I could use that's nice, that starts with F, that talks about running things smoothly, right? So we want to take you from frazzled to orderly. I want you to have the quiet confidence of a forward-facing business owner who's in control, not feeling reactive. I want you to get home in time to have dinner. As one of my clients just did, felt so happy and quite proud, and I think he should. He got a bill for $7,000 for his daughter's braces. And you just should have heard his voice when he said, Dom, we just cut the check. We just paid for the braces. But he wasn't able to do that for his older, I think it was his older son before, because that was before they started on this process I'm going to talk to you now. So I don't know if you're listening to this episode because you want braces for your kids. It doesn't matter what you want, but whatever you want. Let me show you how to get there. Okay, so the strategic plan is the first thing we do. Now, by the way, you don't need me to do the strategic plan. Go read any of the strategic planning books out there. There's Traction, there's Scaling Up. I'm an expert in both of those. I've used both of those systems to run different businesses of my own that I've built and sold. The one that I'm using now, and the one that I've been using a lot with many of you listening, is the system by Gino Wickman, which is called Traction. And that's where you get the entrepreneur operating system in place. And you're free to go and do that on your own. But if you're running into trouble, if you're finding that you're stuck, if you're not getting traction, I know that's the title of the book, but I guess that's why it is. But if you just feel like you're spinning your wheels, then maybe give me a call and we'll walk through where you're stuck. A lot of it has to do with the discipline or the accountability of just doing it, sticking to it, because it starts there's times it gets boring. There's times it gets quiet. There's times you got to go do something you might not know how to do. And so you get stuck. And you're stuck for a week, and then you're stuck for 2 weeks, and then you're stuck for 3 weeks. And before you know it, you've forgotten and you're off to something else. Let me go back now and revisit how we get to Q4, how we get to planning this business and reinventing it while we're running it. Or as I like to say, I want to show you how to rebuild this airplane while you're flying the thing. That's what I want to show you how to do. So when we start the whole strategic planning process, we go back to your core values. Just had a very interesting coaching meeting actually with some Amish clients in Amish country. And they're having problems with guys showing up at the work site on time and committed and engaged to work. And we went back actually to core values. What's the core values that you have as leaders? And did you put those core values in front of the team? And that became just a central rallying point for, hey, you know what, you're right. These are our core values. This is what we stand for. So one of the things that you do, at least with me, when you're building a strategic plan, is we go back and we identify your core values. Here's a test, by the way, for those of you who are still wondering about the whole strategic planning thing. And now you're wondering even more about core values because it sounds a little fruity. I get it. I don't care. I'm going to say it anyway. Core values are important. It's the glue that holds together everything else, right? So your core values are being, how do I say this? When you have a frustration with a person or a process or a system, and you can't describe what it is, but just deep in your guts, it's not right. This could be your business partner. This could be a family member who's working with you or for you. This could be an employee. This could be your best technician or your foreman. There's probably a values problem going on. And, in my coaching language, I would say we have a values alignment issue. I try not to talk fancy like that, but we have a values alignment issue. I actually happen to have one of my clients' strategic plans in front of me as I'm doing this for reference. And here are the values that he came up with that are important to him and his company: positive, energetic, hardworking, craftsman. We do high quality work, detailed and detail oriented. We focus on what matters. And I want the cleanest, most organized shop. Now, what I don't see on here is anything about his faith, about family or fitness. And that's okay. This happened to be the first time that he went through the cycle of doing a strategic plan. Every time you do it, you get a bit better. It's the same thing with you and me. Every time we do something, we get a little bit better at it, right? Anyway, so we start with core values. Then we think about our core focus. Okay, so core focus. And remember, I'm going a little bit fast here. But I want you to think right now, but what's the focus of your business? Is your business just day to day floating along? Oh, we've got this project. We're doing the Hernandez project, blah, blah, blah. Now it's done. And now we've got the Smith project. And maybe now we're doing a restaurant build out. We're doing all the tables and I don't know, the sofas or something, I don't know, whatever you're building. Or maybe you're doing something electrical or HVAC, but that project just floats in and out of your consciousness. It just goes by. It's because you're not running the business on purpose. Now, don't be offended. I don't mean to offend you. I'm trying to show you a different way to run the business on purpose, where you've downloaded your goals on paper, and now our job is to go meet those goals. So we think about what your core focus is, right? Again, going fast here. Once we understand your core focus, then we start to think about who's your ideal customer, who's your perfect customer. Now, some of you are laughing. You're like, hey, Rubino, my perfect customer is one that pays me. Yeah, that's one good measurement. But who is your perfect customer? Quite often I hear people in the trades saying to me, Dom, we're very proud. We've been able to build this business 100% on referrals and word of mouth because we're that good. And you are that good. Referrals and word of mouth are fantastic. That is also described by me when I make my notes. You say, Dom, we do referrals and word of mouth. And I write in my book, hope and a prayer. It's just a hope and a prayer because I can't do anything to get more referrals. I can't do anything to drive more word of mouth. I can wait for Thanksgiving or the big football game for somebody to say, hey, that extension on your house looks really nice. Who did it? But that's pretty loosey-goosey. I can't go drive more business because of that. And so we need to get proactive. Again, running the business on purpose, get proactive, get to that place where I'm pulling the levers. I'm pushing the buttons. I know what my conversion rates are. I know what the numbers are in the business. And if I need to make something happen in the business, I know exactly what to do to change that. And so when we think about our ideal customer, you have to think your ideal customer looks a certain way. And we don't all have the same perfect customer. For some of you, it's going to be commercial work. For some of you, it's institutional work. For some of you, it's residential work. For some of you, it's new residential work. For some of you, it's renovations, residential work. What matters is what matters to you. You want your work to line up with how your guys are trained and skilled and how it lines up for the tooling and equipment we've got. And we also need to line that up again with our profits and profitability. Are you getting the best jobs from the best customers in the best neighborhoods? Many of you have heard of George. George is a house painter I worked with. Working with him, he was doing really small homes, really good at exterior repaint, did interiors. He did whatever job he could at the beginning, but he realized after working with me that exterior repaints in really, really nice areas was the way to go. And so a normal job for him would have been $2,500. And he was used to selling to people who lived in the same kind of house as him. And so through the coaching and understanding his core focus and his values, we actually turned his vision around, like physically turned his mind around and said, hey, what about that neighborhood over there? And now he's working in way nicer neighborhoods with far larger jobs. His average job now, I'd have to look at my notes, but somewhere around $8,000 to paint an exterior. But actually his best joke is, Dom, you know why I like working in the better neighborhoods is because nobody steals my tools out of the truck here. But who's your ideal customer? How does it line up with who you are and what you do? You have to understand that because everything else that we're going to talk about now is built on, do you have the right customer? If not, well, I can show you how to go get it. You can figure out how to go get it. Let's go get it. Let's go get the right customer because we can get that customer if we aim at the right customer. But if we're just living on a hope and a prayer, oh yeah, Dom, I do word of mouth and referrals brings me all of my business. Well, I appreciate that. It means you're doing a great job. You probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast unless you were doing the kind of quality where people talked about you in good terms. But it's very difficult to go turn that around and make that more business. We got to make that more business. And I'll show you how to do that. Anyways, after we've got your core values, after we've got your core focus, we then do the 3-year picture. What does the 3 years look like in your company? Now, you might think that, oh, Dom, that's kind of fuzzy. If you think that's fuzzy, it gets informed by the 10-year picture. But I'm not even going to get into that today because that's a special exercise on its own. But that's where I show you and walk you through, and it's what I want you to do as well, is to sit down with a cup of coffee and a piece of paper, put your headphones in, go to the coffee shop, face the wall, don't let anybody bug you, and just think, what do you want this business to look like in 3 years? Because I'll tell you this, it's happened to me like it's happened. For those of you who can watch the video, you can see I'm trying to grow a beard here. There's a lot of silver in that beard. It didn't used to be like that. Geez, it didn't used to be that I shaved. Time's going to pass for all of us. That 3 years will happen whether you plan on it happening or not. I'm going to turn 56 whether I plan for it or not. So why don't I get in control of what's going to happen in the next 3 years? What's important to me? What's important to you? And that's what the 3-year picture helps us to draw in front of us. What do you want? Hey, listen, we're going to talk about it from a business perspective. What do you want your sales to look like? What do you want your profitability to look like? What do you want your personal life to look like? What do you want the balance in your life to look like? This is also where a lot of people say, you know what, I'm taking care of ailing parents, and in 3 years, they're probably going to be in a more difficult place than they are now. And I wonder what that means for me in my life. But you got to be there to be that son or be that daughter to take care of them. It's going to happen no matter what. I'm sorry to just be so blunt, but you can be blunt with me too. Okay. Anyways, let's get into what we need to do next. We need to define how we're going to go after that ideal client. This is part of the strategic planning process, right? I'm doing the Q4 wrap up for the whole year. So by now, if we put a strategic plan in place in Q1, you can start any time of the year really, but let's just assume it goes from January to December. We want to have some measurements in place. Hey, we've been running our Facebook ads. Hey, we're doing direct mail pieces. Hey, we are using the signage method so well that we're getting lots of leads from it. I'm laughing because one of my clients just told me that his mother-in-law drove through an area that we're farming. Now, we're not talking about farming in the sense of, legumes and wheat and barley and corn. We're talking about when we're marketing an area as if we're farming it. So we continue to put a lot of effort and energy into a certain neighborhood so that we get leads from that area because we know that part of town. And a whole bunch of you know I'm talking directly to you right now. I won't mention any names, but those of you who are smiling and nodding, you know exactly who I'm talking to. But farming is a really solid strategy. To be honest, it's not even sexy. It's just straight work, and it works. And it's just putting signs in the area where you want to do business, signs on the homes or signs on the businesses where you're already doing work. If you're in commercial, institutional, or civil, I've got a slightly different take on this, but I won't talk about it now. If you have a question, give me a shout. You guys know my cell phone number, by the way. If any of this resonates, if you think it's time for you to do a strategic plan on your business and get things where it's proactive, shoot me a text, 604-837-8361. Anyways, the marketing strategy of signage was funny because one of my clients, his mother-in-law drove through the area and she was bugging him. She says, "Are you running for office? Because your signs are everywhere." So that's good. People are seeing it. And that just means you're going to get leads from that area. The right customers in the right places doing the right kind of jobs that are lined up for how your crew is ready to work and the kind of tooling that you have in your company, right? So let's leave it at that. Now we're into what we're going to do next. So we've done all this stuff. It's all over the place. You're like, "Dom, where's the coaching come in?" Well, that was it. No, here's what we do next. Now we say, okay, listen, we've understood who we are as a company. We did our values, we did our focus. We understand who our perfect customer is. We did the ideal client exercise. We know how to get the client. We did our marketing exercise. Now we have to talk about how we're going to go after them. So we've set our goals for 3 years and for 10 years. And now I say, okay, listen, that's all very nice. And here it is on the table. Given what we just talked about, what do we have to do in a year, in 12 months? So everybody takes off their hat, they scratch their head and like, okay, well, listen, if we're going to do those things, here's what we need to do this year. We need to change this software. We need to know our overheads. We need to change the way we do our estimates. We have to increase our advertising to the right kind of customers. We have to hire some new people. We have to get rid of some people. We have to train some people better. Whatever it is, you write that down on a list. And I help you exhaust the heck out of that list, because the best thing we can do is make that 1 year goal list a little too big. And that's all fine. But what we're going to find out there is we've set ourselves goals for sales. You're going to proactively know your sales. You're not going to know your sales like most people do 3 months after year-end taxes are filed, when your accountant reports it back to you. You're going to know your sales as you go. If you happen to be working with me, you're going to know what your sales are, what your profit levels are on a weekly basis, if not a bi-weekly basis, for sure monthly basis. You're going to know your overheads. You're going to know your profit margins. You're going to know something called your profit contributions. You're going to have systems and SOPs in place. SOP stands for standard operating procedure, because we do all these crazy little boring things like building a flowchart. Actually, I just built a flowchart today, just before I was recording this with one of my clients. We built his manufacturing operations flowchart. That's what it's called, the manufacturing operations flowchart. But you know what? How does something come in his case, he's a cabinet shop. But it'd be the same if you're a roofer or did HVAC, right? It would be a service operations flowchart. Doesn't matter what your business is. There's always a flow. There's an order of operations. We follow. But once we write it on paper, we go, hey, hang on a second. I see how we can make that better. Or I see where when we go off of the flowchart, when we go off the process, we run into trouble. Actually, one of you listening right now passed on a very important piece of knowledge to me once. He goes, "Dom, I understand the flowchart." And he goes, "I don't have problems with what's in the little boxes." He goes, "My problem is in the space between the little boxes." And I thought that was the wisest observation ever. He's absolutely right. So high five to you, bud. You know who you are. Having that flowchart, again, gives you something to refer to, gives you something to look back at. The client that I was just working with today, who built the manufacturing operations flowchart, here's what we did. I said, go print that on a PowerPoint page, because you can do some interesting art on PowerPoint. Very simple, right? Easier than doing it on a Word document or Excel. And print it, and then put it everywhere in the shop. Put it above the urinal. Put it in the lunchroom. Put it above the CNC in his case, right? If you run a roofing company, have it in the truck. Have it at the warehouse before everybody leaves. It doesn't matter, but have it there so you can all refer to it. Now, are people going to ignore it? Absolutely. They're going to ignore it. Why would they pay any attention to it? Unless you and I bring attention to it. And it's all part of the mix. It's all part of the mix. You know, if you look behind the counter at a Wendy's or a McDonald's or, I think I saw this recently at a Dairy Queen. If you look behind the counter, they have a visual for how to put together a hamburger. Yeah, the next time you're in one of those places, and listen, that's not the high point of my pride being in a fast food place. I was there with the kids, but if you If you look there and you see that they've got a little picture that says, this is how we make our Whopper or whatever it is, the bottom bun, and then whatever. And it's all pictures because that's their manufacturing operations flowchart. It just makes sense when you look at that. Somebody could look at that and say, okay, bottom bun looks like a little round rectangle. Then I put lettuce, and then I put this, and then I put that. Oh, and then I put the other little bun in the middle, and then there you go. Manufacturing operations flowchart. I just can't come up with a better name. The Whopper burger maker system. How do you make things in your business? How do you make what you make, repair what you repair, install what you install, service what you service? That's the key elements of running this business on systems. So say it with me, but take a deep breath. Predictability. This whole thing is an exercise in getting you so where you can be predictable in your business. So you have clarity and focus. That's all we want to get for you. Anyways, the 1 year plan list is going to be pretty long. And then you look at it and you go, wow, Rubino, that was a pretty cool exercise. I think I know what I need to do this year. And I say, just cool your jets for a second. Hang on. We're not done. We're going to take that 1 year plan and we're going to squeeze it. And when we squeeze it, you know what pops out? The plan for Q4. What do we need to do in the next 3 months? And it's easy to prioritize once we know what we need to do in a year, measured against what we need to do in 3 years, measured against what we need to do in 10 years, measured against our ideal customer, measured against our core focus, measured against our values. You see, this whole randomness of running a business doesn't have to be random. There's a system. You just got to follow the system. And now it becomes easy to run a business, easy to run multiple businesses if you want. Just each of them has to have its own strategic plan. So I'm going to wind us down on the Q4 strategic plan. Everything works together. It's a living, breathing organism. It's not, let's spend money on advertising and get more deals. That doesn't work. I was just reading the AWI, which is an industry association in the architectural millwork industry, just put out a report, and they were talking about people that respond to bids. So commercial work, they're only winning 10 to 30% of the bids they respond to. Well, you can either look at that as a bad thing or a good thing, right? And then I looked at reports from the HVAC industry, the electrical contractors industry, and also the roofing industry. And guess what? People are winning about 10 to 30% of the jobs they bid on. Now, some of you listening are going, hang on, Rubino, I must be an exceptional human being because I'm winning 80% of the jobs I bid on. Hold on. I want you to shudder in your boots. If you're winning 80% of the jobs you're bidding on, number one, you're not bidding on enough jobs. And number two, you're leaving money on the table. But you won't know that unless you've got the data, the information, and the clarity of understanding how all of these things fit together. Because you can't just go spend $1,000 on pay-per-click ads with some new hotshot web guy. And you can't do the same thing with somebody who says direct mail is the way to change the world. You have to have some testing and measuring. We need to bring a little bit of seniority, a little bit of this gray hair that we've all got going on, and say, well, let's do a little test. Let's measure the test. And then when we figure out the formula, we'll put it in place. Let's test things. Let's test the manufacturing operations flowchart by coming up with it across the desk like you and I just did, and then handing it to our foreman and saying, hey, what do you think? Is this the way fence posts are installed in our company? Is this the way we do flashings around a roof? And they come back and go, no, boss, you got it all wrong. You got to do this first, then that first. And this is kind of a sometimes and a maybe and a loop back here. And you go, well, that's interesting. Let me make those changes. And now guess what? They're bought into it because they had a hand in creating it. So your company is a living, breathing organism, and it reflects you. So we need to make that as organized as possible so other people can pick up the weight, help push the lead ball so you don't have to do it all on your own. Anyways, that takes us to the end of our strategic planning process. What happens now is what is up to you, right? The people who are coaching with me, you don't have to worry about anything because we're going to coach you through your strategic plan now. And that's why me and my team meet with people every 2 weeks. We just follow along. What does the strategic plan say? Let's make it happen. Let's remove the roadblocks and get there. And that's why you get clients. And you've seen the other people out there talking, they start with me, they're doing 800 grand and now they're doing, 1.2, or they start with me at 1.2 and now they're doing 2.5 and they're insanely profitable. I had a client, and I know you're listening. He was doing $1.2 million with me before he met me and not profitable. Now he's 2.5 and super profitable. And at one point he had a side conversation with me saying, I think I made too much money on this job. Should I give some money back to the GC? And I said, no, don't do that, because you've been paying for that for years, right? You've been paying for that for years. We got the business, I didn't do anything. He took action. He got the biggest business organized. He got things in place. He was the leader who led his team out of the desert and in towards what it needed to be. And now it's profitable because he invests in himself, invests in his people. I want you to do the same thing. If you want to know where this information comes from, you don't need to get it from me, although this podcast is certainly here to help you. Go buy the book Traction by Gino Wickman. You can also get it as an audiobook. If you don't like that book by Gino, go read Mastering the Rockefeller Habits or Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. Vern's system I used to turn around my own business. You guys heard before that I had one business that I built it from nothing to 120 million in sales and sold it. Well, the strategic planning system I used for that was Vern Harnish's system. The business after that, and I'm still going through the sale process, so I'm not at liberty to say the sales amount, but I can tell you that it had 237 locations around the world when I sold it. I used the EOS system to build that. So I'm very familiar with both of them. And almost everybody that works with me here is on the EOS system. It just works. So go ahead and read those books or listen to the audio or reach out to me. As you guys know, I'm here. I'm here to be helpful wherever I can. I love having you as an audience. I love hearing back from you. Sorry, there's the cough coming in. And if you do have questions for me, please, I am here to help. I will not leave you hanging. Reach out to me, send me a text message. My cell phone number is 604-837-8361. And I will talk to you about how to run this business like a business person who just happens to be a contractor, not just a contractor with a crew who's feeling pushed around by the wind. So let's get you there. All right, folks, thanks for listening in. I'll wrap it up here. Well. That's another episode of the Profit Tool Belt podcast, where I walked you through the fourth quarter review of your business. Look, it's important that you have a vision for the future. It's important that you have a plan for the future. It's important that you stick to the plan once you've got it. And then sometimes we have to change the plan as we go along. Today's episode didn't matter if you are just yourself in the company, if you've got 2 employees, if you've got 20 or 200 employees. That doesn't matter. What matters is that you have a plan on paper that you can always go back and look at. Imagine that we turned your company into a board game, and that board game is sitting there right in front of you with all the moving pieces on it. And you understand when you're looking at it, if I make this decision, it's going to impact this other thing. And then you go ahead and make that decision anyway, because you know it's the right decision to make. That's what I was trying to show you today. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, if you want to go back and listen to the other 3 episodes, go look in previous podcasts and you'll see where we did the end of Q1, end of Q2, and end of Q3 review, where I go into a lot more depth on the other aspects of making this company into what you've always wanted it to be. And I always say this: if you want to run this business for all the reasons that are important to you, then you're probably a lot like other people. I just want to be in control of my own destiny. I want to take care of my family. I want to have freedom. But if you've lost the ability to have freedom, it's time to get you back on track with something like this, right? But if you want to be the person who's driving a newer truck, towing a bigger boat to a prettier cottage on a nicer lake, then this is the system to do it. This is exactly how you get there. And I want to help you get there if you want to go to that place. Like, it's different than where everybody else is going in the randomness. Have you ever tried to hire a subcontractor? What an exercise in frustration with most of them. You're listening to this show. I know it's not you. And listen, if you want to take a step up, if you want to level up in your business, give me a call. Well, shoot me a text. Let's start with a text. And then what we'll do next is have a phone call. But text me first. Send me a text message at 604-837-8361. Just say, Dom, let's talk. And then you know what we'll do? We'll talk. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Questions and Answers with Dom. We've got a question today from Cowgill Trim and Cabinets. They're in Colorado. Cowgill Trim and Cabinets is a member of the Contractor Strategy Group on Facebook, and that's where they left this message. Here's his message. This quarter, we've been prioritizing improving our client experience. To get some baseline metrics, we've been sending out a custom experience survey with a Starbucks gift card as a thank you gesture. I've sent out 15 and have yet to receive a single survey back. Any tips or strategies to increase buy-in for exit surveys? All right, thanks for asking. I've got an answer prepared for you. Hi, welcome to Questions and Answers with Dom. We've got a question here from Cowgill Trim and Cabinets over in Colorado. Love Colorado, beautiful place. This question came to us through the Contractor Strategy Group, which is a free Facebook group you can join. And these are the kind of questions that are the conversation on there. It's just for owners, right? So these kind of questions get posted and we answer them. But I've chosen this question to answer here in Questions and Answers with Dom so that you can get the benefit on the podcast. Of course, his question was, how do I increase buy-in for the exit interviews? He's buying Starbucks cards for everybody, and that's costing him a lot of money. He's already done 15. I can imagine, I think the smallest Starbucks card is $5. So that's a lot of money. He's tested, and now he's measured. I've spent all that money, and I've got zero return. So he's a little frustrated. He's asking that question of the other owners. So I've got a 4-step system for how you can increase the buy-in on the exit interviews you're doing. The fourth part is actually a little bonus because I'm going to tell you an example that one of you listening and one of you on the Contractor Strategy Group is already doing. He's a bit of a superhero, and I'm going to tell you what they're doing so that you know how people are doing this in real life. Anyways, okay, how do we increase buy-in for exit surveys? Number one, ask at the right time. And when do we ask? Ask when the customer is happiest. So when they're doing that first walkthrough or when they're doing that first tour, if you're coming back to do a punch list, it may or may not be the right time. So ask at the right time. That's item number one. Item number two, get that exit interview or testimonial or Yelp review, whatever you need, get it now. Don't wait 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. Especially for those of you in the renovations world or the cabinetry world where you're waiting for appliances to show up, even though the appliances are 6 months late, you renovated the kitchen, the kitchen's ready. It's now, whatever month, let's just say it's December. They're ready for Christmas, but the appliances aren't there. So they got this 48-inch appliance, and it's kind of the right appliance, but it's not really right. And now they have to wait another 9 or 10 months for the real appliance to show up. They're not going to be happy with you through no fault of your own. It's the appliances, right? There's a problem with global supply and shipping, but get your testimonials as soon as you can. And that means get it now. Don't wait because things are just going to fester and we don't want them to fester. One of the things that I've heard people do, and I actually learned this from the HVAC industry. Recently, I was in Atlanta, Georgia. How many Atlantas are there? I was in Atlanta. Speaking at an HVAC conference, heating, ventilation, air conditioning conference. And one of the things that one of the speakers there does, he runs a company called Moon Air. He's got his website and QR code. QR code is that really weird square with a bunch of weird squares inside it. And if you take a picture with your phone, it takes you to a website. Well, he's got that on the back of a clipboard of his installers, of his HVAC technicians. And while they're in front of the customer, they're like, hey, we just took care of this, this, and that for you. Would you mind leaving a review? And he's got a little script that he takes them through. Now, this script came from a company called The New Flat Rate, which is a menu pricing software for the HVAC industry. Matt is the trainer there, and this is what he said. This is the script. Hi, can I ask you for a 5-star review? My boss is gonna check. Now, before you do that, if you want to leave me a 3 or a 4-star review, please tell me what to fix and I'll do it now. But that 5-star review is important to me and my family. And then he holds up the clipboard with the QR code on the back and asks for the review, because what the person's going to do is review the tech, not the company. So even if they're mad at the company, they're not going to be mad at the tech. We hope, right? But you want to get that review now. Now, if you don't have a QR code, have an iPad or have some mobile device that you're already logged into that you can hand them so they can do that for you and ask for that review right there on the spot. That's how you get positive reviews. You have to ask for them. If that's a little bit out of your comfort zone, I understand that, but you're going to feel the pain either way. You're going to feel the pain of asking, or you're going to feel the pain of not having the reviews. You just choose your pain. That's like so many things in life. You get to choose your pain. And that's the pain you're going to choose. All right, let me give you the bonus. This comes from a really very wise and smart and driven professional who we are very fortunate to have with us in the community. His name is Al. He and his wife run 1010 Kitchens. They are members of the Contractor Strategy Group. And one of the things that they do is they go beyond the review and they get a picture of people standing in a fully finished kitchen. And those people are holding a sign and the sign says, "We love our 1010 kitchen." And it's actually, "We heart our 1010 kitchen." It's a nice big, I think it's a Coroplast sign, it's like one of those plastic signs. But he's got a picture of a real couple in a real kitchen standing in front of it saying, "We love our 1010 kitchen." Now, catch what he's doing here. He's a kitchen and bath renovator. He's not taking pictures of the cabinets, which 99% of us do. Right. And listen, for roofers, you might have to do something else. For HVAC, do something else. Obviously choose your industry. But let's talk about renovators and kitchen cabinet people for a second, just as an example of how you do this. He's not focusing on the cabinets. He's focusing on the people. Because who's he going to sell to next? He's going to sell to people. He's not going to sell to a kitchen. He's going to sell to the people who have the kitchen. And there's something that Alan and Barb found interesting. They found this out because they're smart marketers. They look at their numbers. They found out that a picture that includes a dog or a cat along with the owners gets clicked more than the other ones. Those of you who have dogs and cats that you love, your fur babies, as you call them, you'll understand. But that gets engagement. So now maybe you don't have the testimonial, maybe you don't have the Yelp review or the Houzz review or wherever you get you're aiming to get your reviews, but we do have the picture of an actual happy, satisfied customer. And so now when somebody comes to your website, they're like, "Oh my gosh, look at all these people who are happy with their 1010 kitchen." And so I take my hat off, I bow to Al and Barb for that. And I hope you appreciate that tip. Cowgill Trim and Cabinets, thank you very much for leaving that question and for us to be able to answer it here. If you have a question that's really grinding at you, that's frustrating you, that's making you angry, that's making you sad, that's making you wonder, leave your question here and I'll answer it in questions and answers with Dom. All you do is you go to speakpipe.com/ask Dom. You just hit one single button on the screen and it records it and it automatically sends it to me. It is dead easy, like really easy. So just do that. And then I'm happy to answer your question here on the show. Thanks very much.